You're being cooperative, sir. We appreciate that. Some Seminole County detectives want to talk to you, so we're going to get the handcuffs off of you.
This is the story of Grant Amato, a former nurse from Florida whose life took a seriously dark turn. After he got fired for illegally giving patients anesthesia, he ended up blowing through more than $300,000 of his family's savings on a woman he met online, a webcam model named Sylvia Wenceslao. It took his parents weeks to realize just how bad things really were, but by then it was way too late. At first, the family tried to keep him under control. He was basically on house arrest. But, you know, when someone's mind starts breaking down, their decisions can get really twisted, and Grant chose the most horrifying path imaginable. He killed his own family. Like, how does that even happen? How does a smart, polite guy turn into a cold-blooded killer? What exactly went down that tragic day? And who was Sylvia, really? Hey guys, welcome back to Detective Mike, the channel where we dive deep into real crime stories, uncover dark secrets, and face the truth head-on. Before we jump in, I want you to drop a comment below. Tell me what city you're watching from, and what the weather's like there right now. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Alright, let's get started. Welcome to Chuluota, Florida. A small, cozy town surrounded by lakes and forests, perfect for anyone who loves nature. You can go fishing, kayaking, hiking through nearby preserves. It's peaceful, quiet, and has that small town American charm where everybody knows everybody. Chuluota's the kind of place where, honestly, nothing much ever happens. But in 2019, that peace was shattered by a horrific tragedy. When police were called to check on the Amato family home, no one could have imagined what they were about to find. The morning of the 25th of January 2019 started like any other. The air was cool, and the officers who showed up for a welfare check didn't notice anything strange at first. When two officers knocked on the front door, they were met with complete silence. Every door was locked, and there was no sign of life inside. So, they decided to force their way in. What began as a simple check-in instantly turned into a nightmare. The moment the officers stepped inside, they saw Chad Amato lying in a pool of his own blood he'd been shot, his body stretched out on the kitchen floor. Nearby, they found his middle son, Cody, also dead, and a few minutes later, in the home office, they discovered Margaret, the mother, slumped over a desk in another gunshot victim. It was clear this wasn't some random crime. The Amato family had been deliberately wiped out. Out of 5 family members, 3 were gone. Only 2 sons remained alive.
Our other big story tonight, a family, a mom, dad, and adult son, all murdered inside their home. And tonight, the person of interest, the other adult son, according to deputies, is no longer in custody. Deputies hunted for him last week and then told us today, after they caught him, they let him go. The family was shot to death in their home on Sultan Circle on Friday. That's in Chuluota in southeast Seminole County. News 6's Jerry Askin is live tonight at the Seminole County Sheriff's Office working to get results for neighbors who got lots of questions and concerns tonight. Jerry?
Eric, yes, just an awful story, and like I said, it's a murder mystery, and right now we're asking deputies here in Seminole County to clarify more about who shot this mother, father, and son, leaving them all dead, and why. All as right now there's a new twist in this case, and many neighbors, as you can imagine, have lots of questions.
News hit the local community like a punch to the gut, and the one question that everyone kept asking was simple. What on earth happened to the Amato family that led to such a brutal, bloody ending? Neighbours and friends all said the same thing. The Amatos were like the most peaceful family ever. They never argued with anyone, never caused trouble, didn't have enemies in town or anywhere else. Seriously, nobody could think of a single reason why anyone would want to hurt them. But during the search of the house, detectives noticed something strange. One family member was missing. It was the youngest son, Grant. That alone seemed weird, because Grant was known to be a total homebody. He should have been there that day when the police showed up. But as the hours went by, detectives started to get this uneasy feeling. By the evening, they were down to 2 possibilities. Either Grant had been kidnapped, or he was involved in the murders himself. 2 days later, when police found his car parked outside a DoubleTree hotel, everything started to make sense, and not in a good way. Their worst suspicions were confirmed when they discovered Grant hiding out inside one of the hotel rooms. Police quickly surrounded the building, setting up a full perimeter, and then stormed inside. Grant didn't resist at all, in fact. He was calm, polite even. He actually offered to let them search his room to make sure there were no weapons. It was eerie, almost like he didn't grasp the horror of what had just happened.
You're being cooperative, sir. We appreciate that. Some Seminole County detectives want to talk to you, so we're going to get the handcuffs off of you.
After a short conversation, police arrested Grant and brought him in for questioning. What came next, the investigation, the interrogations, and eventually the trial revealed horrifying details no one could have imagined. No one had any idea just how far Grant Amato had gone. But before we dive into all those shocking discoveries, let's rewind a bit. Who exactly was Grant Amato? What happened on that tragic day back in January 2019? And what could possibly drive a son to such unthinkable violence against his own family? Let's go back to the beginning. Chad and Margaret Amato seemed to have it all. They had 3 sons, Jason, Cody, and Grant, the perfect all-American family. The boys grew up polite, calm, and friendly, and the household was full of warmth and harmony. Chad was a humble, hard-working man who always put his family first. He was smart, quick-thinking, and steady under pressure, the kind of guy people respected. He worked as a pharmacist, and everyone who knew him said the same thing: Chad was sharp, reliable, and great to be around. He wasn't just good at his job either. The guy knew his way around technology and money too. Thanks to years of hard work and discipline, he managed to save up hundreds of thousands of dollars for his family's future. As for Margaret, she worked as a senior operations manager, professional, organized, and respected at work. But outside the office, that's where her real heart showed. She had this deep compassion for others, and always believed in the good in people, even when, honestly, they didn't deserve it. That kindness really shined back in 2008, when Margaret rescued an abandoned, mistreated horse named Lady. It wasn't easy, the poor animal had clearly been terrified and broken by her previous owners. But Margaret never gave up. She rented a stable nearby and visited Lady every single day. And little by little, through patience and love, the horse started to trust her again. By 2018, 10 years later, Lady was a completely different animal. Calm, gentle, and full of life. Everyone who knew Margaret spoke about her with so much affection. She was kind, caring, and soft-spoken, a woman with a huge heart. And together, she and Chad created such a peaceful, loving home for their 3 boys. A place where everything seemed safe, stable, and happy. Even the oldest son, Jason, who was from Chad's previous marriage, got along great with the 2 younger boys, Cody and Grant. But Cody and Grant, oh my god, those 2 were inseparable. Grant absolutely idolized his big brother and followed him everywhere. You know how older brothers usually get annoyed when their little brothers copy everything they do? Yeah, not Cody. He actually liked it. He was patient, chill, and always happy to have Grant around. They were both into video games, anime, and Japanese culture, total geeks in the best way. Whenever Cody got into something new, Grant was right there copying him. First it was gaming, then working out, and later, college. Weightlifting got them both hooked on healthy living, and soon they decided to turn that passion into a career. They both chose medicine. They wanted to become nurses. Their parents, Margaret and Chad, were beyond proud. They were thrilled that their sons had chosen something so respectable and stable a profession that could actually make a difference. They couldn't wait to see what the future held for them. But sadly, that's where the cracks started to show. Cody was a natural, smart, confident, driven. Grant, on the other hand, struggled. For the first time in his life, he couldn't keep up with his big brother. After nursing school, both of them decided to continue studying to become nurse anaesthetists. But Grant failed one of the key exams, and that failure set off a domino effect. He eventually dropped out completely. Still, he managed to land a job in healthcare, but, of course, he made way less money than Cody. And you can probably guess what that did to him. He started developing this massive inferiority complex. Over time, he lost all confidence in himself, and that's where his downward spiral began. While working at Advent Health in Orlando, Grant made a decision that would completely destroy his career. In June 2018, co-workers noticed something strange. 8 vials of a powerful sedative called propofol had gone missing. And the weird part? None of the doctors from those departments had ordered it. Propofol, by the way, is the same drug that killed Michael Jackson.
Again, we've talked earlier about the difficulty in drawing up even 5 cc's. To have a patient who's somewhat sedated under the effects of drugs, drawing up at one time, it may be conceivable. Drawing it up 6 times over that period of time, 2 hours, is inconceivable, yes.
You'd think Grant might have some kind of logical explanation for what happened, but nope, he didn't. During questioning, he straight up admitted that he'd been giving patients doses of propofol on his own, because, get this, he thought they weren't relaxed enough. Like, what? You can imagine how fast that blew up. The hospital immediately fired him and reported everything to the police. Grant was arrested and charged with theft and the illegal use of controlled substances worth around $2,000. Thankfully, his older brother Cody, who by that time had a solid career and a steady income, stepped in to save him yet again. Cody paid over $8,000 in legal fees to help Grant out. In the end, the charges were dropped, but only because of Cody's generosity. And yet, instead of being grateful, Grant just sank deeper into that ugly feeling of being the weaker one. No matter what he did, he was always the younger, less successful brother who needed rescuing. Even with the charges gone, his life was still a mess. Without a degree and with a stain on his record, nobody wanted to hire him. So, eventually, he had to move back in with his parents. That's when the depression hit hard. No job, no purpose, no direction. He felt alone, lost, and honestly, pretty useless. So naturally, he turned back to the one thing that had always been his escape anime and video games. By then, it was 2018, and streaming was everywhere. Guys like Summit 1G, Shroud, Dr. Disrespect, and Ninja were blowing up online, becoming actual celebrities. Video games weren't just a hobby anymore. They were a career. Fortnite was huge. Rappers and NBA stars were showing up on streams, and millions of people were watching live every night. Watching all this, Grant thought, hey, maybe I can do that too. He wanted to become a streamer, but, to start streaming, you need the gear, a good computer, a mic, a decent camera. He didn't have the money, so, once again, his family helped him out. They gave him a few $1,000s so he could set up a streaming station in his room. Grant got everything ready, started going live, but the thing was, the market was totally oversaturated. And his content? It was just okay. His gameplay was average, his personality didn't really stand out, and his streams barely got any views. Then, one night, everything changed. He stumbled onto a website called MyFreeCams, an American platform where models do live shows, usually of an adult nature. It had been around since 2004, but by 2018, it was one of the top sites in that niche. According to CNBC, the most popular models there could make over $100,000 a month just by chatting with their fans. There were girls from all over the world on the site, and Grant got hooked immediately. For the first time in a long time, he felt like someone was actually paying attention to him. And then he met her, the model, who completely captured his mind. Her screen name was Addie Sweet, but her real name was Sylvia Wenceslauva, a Hungarian girl from Budapest. At that time, she was already one of the site's biggest stars, and Grant was about to fall headfirst into an obsession that would destroy everything. Sylvia knew exactly how to enchant her audience. In her bio, she wrote, "I'm a very sensual woman. I love revealing my sensuality, sexuality, and the beauty of the female body to you. We could be in the shower, the bath, in bed, or even on the balcony finding new ways to tease, torture, and please each other. It's important for me to share this, because that's how I truly enjoy my time online, connecting with my friends, meeting new ones, while I kill you and you kill me in the most pleasurable way possible." That questionable line about killing sounded odd, but to Grant, everything else was pure temptation. Sylvia had exactly the kind of looks he adored. Full lips, dark eyes, seductive curves, a perfect mix of elegance and flirtation, and Grant instantly lost his head. Through the site, he began purchasing tokens, the platform's internal currency used to pay for model chats or shows. Every night, he spent hours in Sylvia's chat, burning through thousands of dollars just to see her or talk to her. He even created a fake persona, pretending to be a successful content creator with a sizable income. In reality, he was unemployed and living off his family. Grant showered Sylvia with gifts, attention, and compliments. His obsession grew by the day. He was completely consumed by this illusion of love he had built for himself. The truth was, Grant wasn't just unemployed, he didn't make a single cent. Every dollar he spent on Sylvia came straight from his family's bank account. You might wonder, how did he manage to hide it for so long? The answer was simple. He lied. Grant told his parents he was investing in his career, building content, and expanding his online presence. In reality, he was draining every penny on Sylvia. The numbers were staggering. When the truth finally came out, it turned out Grant had spent over $200,000. The Amato family was in total shock. They had no idea what to do with their son, who had fallen so deeply into his obsession. Hoping a change of environment might help, they sent him to live with his aunt, while they figured out how to save him. But that didn't stop him. Like a spoiled child, Grant quickly found his aunt's credit card and spent over $2,000 before she even realized the money was gone. Furious, she immediately sent him back home. At this point, it was clear to everyone Grant was suffering from a serious addiction. He was willing to do anything for a few fleeting moments of fake affection from a woman who didn't even know his real name. He didn't care about the consequences, even if it meant destroying the trust, love, and financial stability of his own family. After returning home, Grant's father, Chad, laid down strict but completely fair conditions handwritten on a sheet of paper. The document stated that Grant must find a job, repay all his debts and stolen money totaling over $320,000, formally apologize to his family, begin therapy immediately, and most importantly, never again ask relatives for money. It also included a list of rules, any violation of which meant immediate eviction from the house he was forbidden to, commit any new thefts, watch pornography, contact Sylvia in any way, leave or lock the house without permission, break the law or cause emotional or physical harm to any family member. Chad, a man who had spent his whole life providing for his family, paying for his son's education, and supporting them through everything, was now making one last desperate attempt to save his deeply troubled son. At the end of the document, he wrote a final warning, cold, firm, and to the point. If you betray my trust, or break any of these rules, you will be arrested. You will sit in jail without bail, with a public defender. You will serve your sentence or live in a homeless shelter. You will never again be allowed to return to this family. The house key is not yours until further notice. At first glance, this might seem harsh, even extreme, but when you consider everything the family had already been through, it made perfect sense. Before allowing Grant back home, they had already paid for a full treatment program at a rehabilitation center to help him overcome his porn addiction and compulsive spending. That treatment alone cost them another $115,000. During this period, Chad decided to reach out to Sylvia personally, but his goal wasn't to get the money back, not at all. His intentions were far more noble. He simply wanted to explain the situation and ask her to stop communicating with his son. He told her that Grant wasn't a successful gamer and didn't have a big online following. In reality, the only thing Grant had been doing was stealing money and destroying his own family. When Grant came home from rehab, things seemed calm, at least for the first few days. Yes, the tension was thick, but he hadn't broken any rules. Unfortunately, that peace wouldn't last long. Grant's mother, Margaret, had always been compassionate. She saw her son struggling emotionally and couldn't just ignore it. One day, in a moment of weakness, she handed him her phone so he could message Sylvia on Twitter. But for Chad, that was completely unacceptable. He had set firm boundaries, and if even one was crossed, all of his efforts would mean nothing. So, without hesitation, Chad kicked Grant out of the house. This news hit Grant hard. Yes, he had abused his family's love and support, but realizing he had now lost his home, his money, and his family was more than he could handle. And that's when Grant, who had already made countless fatal mistakes, prepared to make the most horrific one of all. The morning of the 25th of January 2019 began like any other. The Amato house was quiet. Chad and Cody were at work, and Margaret was working from home. But that calm wouldn't last. Outside, a man in a hoodie stood watching the house, waiting for the right moment. That man was Grant. The door was unlocked. He quietly stepped inside and walked straight to his mother's office, where she was working. Before she even had a chance to turn around, he shot her in the back of the head. With a single bullet, Grant became a cold-blooded killer, one who had just murdered his own mother. But he wasn't done. When his father, Chad, returned home and stepped into the kitchen, his son was waiting. Grant fired twice. Chad died instantly. Then Grant took his father's phone and texted his brother, Cody, telling him to come home early because of a supposed family emergency. When Cody entered the house, he was met by his brother and a gunshot. He collapsed onto the floor, the third victim. Afterward, Grant tried to stage the scene as a murder-suicide. He placed the gun next to Cody's body to make it look like Cody had killed the family and then himself. Then Grant simply walked out, leaving 3 of his closest loved ones dead inside their own home. The next morning, January 25, Cody didn't show up for work, which was completely unlike him. Worried co-workers tried to reach him, but there was no answer. So they called the police and asked them to check on the Amato family. At 9:17 a.m., officers arrived at the scene.
3513, we're going to be clearing the residence. Give us traffic, please. Sheriff's office!
And within just a few minutes, they stumbled upon a horrifying scene. The bodies of Chad, Margaret, and Cody were lying in different rooms. The investigation kicked off immediately, and just 2 days later, Grant was found at the Doubletree Hotel, looking completely lost and disoriented. The police convinced him to come with them voluntarily for questioning. During the interview, he denied any wrongdoing, insisting he had no idea what had happened to his family. But it didn't take long for troubling details to start surfacing. For one, it came out that the day before the murders, Grant and his father had a long, heated argument, and slowly, during the conversation, he began revealing what had led to the tragedy. Grant admitted that the problems in his family relationships stemmed from his obsession with Sylvia, an obsession that had cost the family over $300,000. He also admitted that the main reason he was kicked out of the house was his failure to follow even the most basic rules, which obviously widened the gap between him and his family. But even while revealing these critical details, Grant kept insisting he was innocent. He claimed that, after being kicked out, he never returned home and had no idea his family was dead until the police found him. Interestingly, throughout the entire interview, Grant never once asked about his family. To the detectives, this was an immediate red flag, a sign that something far more serious was being hidden beneath the surface. When asked what he thought happened to his family, Grant suggested a version where maybe Cody had killed both parents and then himself, which conveniently aligned with his attempt to stage a murder-suicide. Even when shown photos of his dead family members, he denied any involvement. The detectives pressed him, showing fingerprints on the weapon, surveillance footage capturing him at the crime scene, but Grant remained indifferent. As a last-ditch effort, they brought in his older half-brother Jason, but despite all attempts, Grant didn't budge.
Alright, so I take it you know what happened. Yeah. I'm going to ask you plain out. You are not part of it anyway. No. I don't know. I want to believe you, Grant, but you're the last person that I could put in that house. And I know what happened over the last 6 months. I can understand the troubles that you've gone through, but it's hard for me to think that you would break to this point. Mm-hmm. But who else can I blame? How are we going to find out who did this? I don't know. I don't have the answers. I love you more than anything in this world, just like I loved Cody, Grant, and Dad. I know Dad was an asshole. I know Cody was an asshole. But they were our family, and they would have never done anything to hurt us. I'm sorry. I don't believe you. And I probably will have resentment for the rest of my life, whether you did it or you didn't do it, but I need closure. I need to know what happened to my mother, my father, and my brother Cody. Because I wasn't there to fucking help. And that hurts me. That hurts me a lot, man. I may not have been able to stop you. You probably may have hurt me too. But at least I would have known what happened. And now I'm in fucking who knows what now. I'm lost. And it scares me that you want to leave here and not face what happened. Because you're putting my life at risk then. You're putting Donna's life at risk, Grandma's life. How do we know what you're going to do?
Brothers hugged, sharing their grief and confusion for a moment, before Jason was escorted out of the room. Soon after, Grant was also released, and walked out of the police station a free man. But the detectives didn't stop there. They kept digging and quickly uncovered numerous inconsistencies between his story and the cold, hard facts of the case. It turned out he had continued withdrawing money from the family account and kept communicating with Sylvia. Just 2 days later, back at the hotel where he was being monitored, the police finally arrested Grant, this time charged with first-degree murder.
You're being cooperative, sir. We appreciate that. Some Seminole County detectives want to talk to you, so we're going to get the handcuffs off of you.
His bail was set at $750,000. On the 2nd of July 2019, the trial began. The prosecution kicked things off by explaining Grant's obsession with Sylvia and how it drove him to murder his family. When his parents discovered the relationship and the massive spending on her, they reached out to Sylvia and basically cut off all contact. Grant went absolutely berserk, like his whole world had been destroyed. His blind obsession with Sylvia pushed him to cold-bloodedly kill 3 members of his own family. The prosecution also highlighted the many inconsistencies in his story. Crime scene analysts quickly concluded that Grant had staged the whole thing. For example, the holster found on his father's hip was meant for a dominant hand opposite to Chad's. Terrifyingly, they also found that Grant had used his dead father's finger to unlock his phone and transfer money to himself, so he could keep communicating with Sylvia. On the flip side, Grant's defense argued there was no direct evidence tying him to the crime scene. They also criticized the detectives, claiming they lied about the evidence, and called the use of his older brother to coax a confession a dirty trick. In the end, Jason took the stand, emotionally testifying against his own brother. He described the pain Grant caused the whole family and how his ruthless behavior and uncontrollable obsession led to the complete destruction of the Amato family.
There are so many memories, stories, and special times that I will never forget. However, I will never be able to make new ones. One of the biggest things I miss is being able to talk to my mom. It's been 208 days. Sorry. I really miss her voice. Though they are gone, I want everyone to know Chad, Margaret, and Cody are amazing people that will live forever. That's it.
It's no surprise that Grant's trial ended in complete disaster for him. He was found guilty on all 3 counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment for each. Although the prosecution pushed for the death penalty given the horrific nature of Grant's crimes, the jury ultimately rejected it, and he received life without the possibility of parole. The Amato family truly lived the American dream. Despite their youngest son's problems, they were successful, kind people who always put family first. Even when their emotional and psychological resources were stretched to the limit, they did everything they could to help Grant get the support he needed. In the end, Grant repaid them with unspeakable violence. His father's patience, his mother's kindness, and his brother's unconditional love meant nothing to him, which remains utterly baffling. The murders of Chad, Margaret, and Cody will forever stand as a grim reminder of how far some people can go when obsessions or addictions overwhelm their judgment and endanger the lives of those around them. Grant Amato, unable to accept that his world was falling apart, chose revenge against the very family that always supported him. It's an extremely sad story, with almost no lessons to take away because Chad and Margaret were truly wonderful people, and Grant killed them over the most absurd reason. Honestly, it's shocking that no psychological evaluation found a serious disorder in him because he was clearly not normal. We all know obsessions can ruin lives, but $200,000 spent on an online model? Really? Anyway, friends, that's almost the entire story. I'm curious about your thoughts on Grant and his bizarre obsession, as well as your take on Sylvia's role in all of this. From what I know, she has hardly commented on the case. Thanks for watching the video all the way through. I truly appreciate your attention. And, as always, take care of yourselves, look out for one another, and stay safe. Thank you, and goodbye.